I thought he'd understand, until I confessed my past with 27 men. He looked me in the eyes and said, "You should have told me before I fell in love with you." And then he walked away forever. I met James on a random Tuesday afternoon in a quiet cafe just a few blocks from my apartment in Denver. I was sitting alone with a book, something light, probably just killing time between errands. He sat across from me at the next table, wearing a faded Colorado Rockies cap and scrolling through his phone. Nothing dramatic, just two people who happened to be in the same place at the same time. I caught him glancing at me a few times. Not in a creepy way, just subtle, like he was trying to decide whether to say something. Eventually, he did. He asked what I was reading. We ended up talking for 2 hours. The kind of conversation that flows so easily you forget how long you've been there. He walked me home afterward. That was the beginning. James was easy to like. Steady, thoughtful, the kind of man who actually listened when you spoke. He had a calmness about him that felt rare. I was used to attention, but James made me feel seen. Like really seen. And that scared me a little. After 3 months, we were officially dating. Nothing too flashy. Dinner nights, road trips to nearby towns, lazy Sundays in. He met my friends. I met his. My parents adored him. His mom said she hadn't seen him this happy in years. But I had this lingering feeling the entire time. A quiet weight in my chest. I kept telling myself I'd tell him about my past soon. I just didn't know how. I didn't lie, not outright. But I avoided questions. I changed the subject when anything too personal came up. When he once asked, "What was your last serious relationship like?" I deflected. Said, "Nothing worth talking about." Truthfully, I'd had a lot of history. More than most people would be comfortable with. 27 men, to be exact. I hadn't counted it up in a bragging way or anything. Just over time, things added up. Some were flings. James never pushed too hard. I could tell he noticed something was off, though. There were moments when he'd pause mid-conversation, like he was trying to figure something out. But he always smiled through it. Always gave me the benefit of the doubt. He said things like, "I love you for who you are now," or, "Everyone has a past." Those kinds of lines sound nice in movies, and I wanted to believe them. Still, there was this voice in my head, the one that whispered, "What if he doesn't mean it?" The one that said, "He's going to look at you differently." I had plenty of opportunities to come clean, but every time I backed out. I told myself we were doing fine, that it didn't matter anymore, that my past wasn't me anymore. But deep down, I knew I was building something on sand. And eventually, I ran out of excuses. It was a Sunday afternoon when I finally told him. We just finished lunch, nothing fancy, just sandwiches and iced tea on the balcony of his apartment. He was scrolling through Zillow listings, daydreaming out loud about buying a small cabin in the Rockies someday. I wasn't planning to bring it up then. I'd gone back and forth on it for weeks. Do I tell him everything? Do I water it down? Do I wait until we're deeper in? Or is that just digging a bigger hole? But something about how calm and happy he looked that day made me feel like it was now or never. He deserved to know. "James," I said quietly, interrupting his ramble about lake views and hiking trails. He looked up, still smiling. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." He raised an eyebrow, not in suspicion, just curiosity. "Okay, what's up?" I paused. I could feel my hands tighten around the glass I was holding. I kept my eyes on the table. "I haven't been completely honest with you about my past. Not because I wanted to lie, but because I didn't know how to say it." He nodded slowly, the smile fading, his body shifting forward a bit. He was listening. Really listening. I took a breath. "Before you, I'd been with a lot of people. I don't mean relationships. I mean physically. I've slept with 27 men. Silence. Just silence." He blinked once. Then again. His eyes didn't move from my face, but something in them did change. I rushed to explain. "It's not who I am anymore. It was years ago. I went through a lot in my early 20s, and I made some bad decisions. I didn't love myself. I was trying to fill some kind of emptiness, and it never worked. That version of me, she's gone. I'm not proud of it. I'm not trying to defend it. I just didn't want to start this relationship with a lie." He didn't say anything. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded, his jaw tight. I could tell he was trying to process it, maybe trying not to react emotionally right away. Finally, he said, "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" "I was ashamed," I admitted. "I didn't want you to look at me differently. And honestly, I was scared you wouldn't want me anymore. But I didn't want to keep hiding. I want to be real with you, even if it costs me." He was quiet for another long moment. Then he got up and walked to the railing, staring out at the street. His back was to me. "I told you before that I loved you," he said finally, voice low. "And I meant it. But this, I don't know what to do with this. It's not like I cheated on you, I said, a little defensively now. It was all before you. It doesn't change how I feel about you. Doesn't that matter? He turned around slowly, his eyes unreadable now. It's not just about cheating, Lily. It's about trust. About who I thought you were. About what you chose not to say until now. I felt something inside me twist. So what, James? You think I'm dirty now? That I'm less than? He didn't answer that. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't storm out. He just looked at me like he was seeing someone he didn't recognize. I knew then things wouldn't be the same. That night was the longest we'd ever spent in silence. We didn't fight. There were no slammed doors, just this heavy, choking quiet that followed us from the balcony to the living room to the drive back to my place. James didn't speak much after my confession. He said he needed time to think, to make sense of everything. I nodded. I didn't push. I knew better. And honestly, I was scared of what he might decide. The next day, he called me over to his apartment. I remember hoping, naively, that maybe he'd tell me it didn't matter. That he still loved me. That the version of me I'd shown him these last few months was enough to outweigh the version I was trying to leave behind. But that's not what happened. When I arrived, he was already waiting on the couch, his hands folded tightly between his knees. The TV was off, the kind of setting where bad news settles in naturally, like it belongs there. I've been thinking a lot, he started. I sat down across from him, hands in my lap. He continued, I meant what I said when I told you I loved you. And I do believe people grow and change. But Lily, I can't get it out of my head. Not just the number, but the fact that you didn't tell me. That you let me fall in love with this version of you while keeping all of that hidden. I was scared you'd leave, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. That's just it, he said, meeting my eyes. You didn't even give me the chance to decide for myself. You took that away from me. And now I don't know what's real and what isn't. I wanted to argue, to tell him I was still me, that the woman who shared his bed, laughed at his jokes, held his hand in the car, that was real. That the past, however messy, didn't erase the present. But he wasn't angry. He wasn't cruel. He was just disappointed. And that hurt more than if he had yelled. You're not a bad person, he said. And I'm not judging you for what you did in the past. But I can't build a future with someone when I don't fully trust the foundation. And right now, that's how it feels, with cracks I can't ignore. So that's it? I asked, already knowing the answer. He nodded slowly. I think it's better we end things here. For both of us. He walked me to the door, like he always did. But this time there was no kiss, no hand reaching for mine. Just quiet. When I stepped outside, I stood there for a moment, thinking about the woman I used to be and the woman I thought I was becoming with him. I wondered if they'd ever truly be separate. Since that day, we haven't spoken. No texts. No late-night calls. No I miss you messages. Just space. I learned a lot from James. I learned that love isn't always enough to erase everything that came before it. And I learned that honesty delayed is still dishonesty, especially when it robs someone of the full picture. I don't regret telling him. I regret not telling him sooner. I regret building something on a version of the truth I thought he could live with. But some truths catch up eventually. And when they do, they don't always destroy you. Sometimes, they just show you who was willing to stay and who wasn't. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.